Hello everyone, I hope you guys are doing well. To all the RBI Grade B aspirants out there who are preparing for their phase 2 exam, we have brought to you the previous year paper of 2025. Basically in this video we'll be solving the 2025 RBI Grade B paper in terms of your FM paper, which is finance and management. So herein we are going to be solving the questions and having a look at the same. Now, before we move forward, if you still haven't had a look at the PYQs or would want to access them, then EduTap has this guidebook which you can download. The link for the same would be in the description box below. In this guidebook, you will be getting an idea about the PYQs, the important concepts, and the strategy if you wish to have a look at the same. So you can download the same from the description box below. Now let's just move forward and have a look at our previous year paper for 2025. Basically, we'll be starting with the management component. Now, generally, 50 marks, 45 to 50 marks come from management. However, 25 was an exception because only 12 to 13 questions came, so the weightage of management was pretty less. Now, this was an exceptional case, might not be repeated, but nothing can be said for sure, right? So, if we have a look at the objective 2 marker question, firstly, the question is saying, which ethical theory best explains the behavior of the lower level employee who justified his unethical action by saying, everyone is doing it, so I am also doing it. Now, the question is in terms of the ethics chapter. And when we talk about ethics, which ethical theory are we talking about in this case? This is ethical relativism for you. Why is it ethical relativism? Because ethical relativism, it's on the concept that, see, your ethics is subjective. The difference between right and wrong, your morals judgments, they are subjective in nature and can change based on what the social norm, the society you're a part of, the practices which are being followed around you, right? So basically, it's not universal. It's not absolute, it's not fixed. It is changing. It can change based on the surroundings of yourself. Therefore, what have we seen in this organization? Multiple top level managers are doing unethical things. So the practices, the social environment in that organization is unethical. In that case, this junior employee also comes up with the judgment ki fine, they are also doing it, I can also do it. Therefore, this is ethical relativism. It's subjective. Why is it subjective? Because of the social environment, your moral judgment is subjective, right? And the answer therefore is ethical relativism. Why not the others? Utilitarianism is based on the concept of, social welfare. We are not talking about this here. Deontological is about your dharma, what sort of duties you are supposed to be fulfilling. Virtue ethics is about having certain good virtues such as, bravery, courage. And justice theory says that there must be some sort of justice for everybody involved. None of this are relevant. Our answer is ethical relativism. Now, if we move forward to the next question. The next question is from the same passage, if the organization implements strict enforces a formal code of ethics, so which of the following outcomes is to be observed? Now, in the organization, we are enforcing a strict formal code of ethics. What will happen because of this formal code of ethics? Increased tolerance of unethical practices? Obviously not. If code of ethics is being introduced, why will we tolerate unethical practices? We won't. Increase in ethical behavior? Yes, this will happen. Why will this happen? Because a formal code of ethics means what? Now the environment is changing, the practices happening in the organization is changing. Therefore, if everybody is following ethics, so as per ethical relativism, you are technically supposed to now be ethical. So ethical behavior will increase because of the formal code of ethics. Greater dependency is incorrect, and D and E are also incorrect. Basically, why? Because if you introduce a formal code of ethics, what is going to happen is there is a difference between right and wrong clearly mentioned. You will never do the unethical wrong thing. You are only going to go for the right action. Therefore, you have to follow it, right? Because it's being strictly enforced. Overall, improving ethical behavior in the organization. Therefore, answer option B. Now, we have a look at the next question. A new passage has been given, right? And based on this passage, the question is asking, which of the following management theories emphasize work specialization, time study, and motion study? The moment we talk about these three techniques, there is only one management theory, which is the scientific management theory, which talks about this as given by Sir F.W. Taylor. What is happening in scientific management? Our crux is to improve productivity and efficiency. To do that, certain techniques are to be used. What are these techniques? Specialization of the work, standardization of the work, having time study and motion study. Therefore, answer B is the correct answer. Now, if we have a look at the next question, which of the following management thinkers is most closely associated with a strict hierarchy based organizational structure with clear lines of authority? The moment we talk about strict hierarchy structure with clear lines of authority, of all the people, our answer is going to be Henry Fayol, option C. Why? Because Henry Fayol, in his administrative management approach, he gave us 14 principles, of which it has been clearly mentioned. We must have unity of command, there must be a scalar chain followed, there must be proper authority and responsibility, proper discipline. Basically meaning what? कि देखो, scalar chain is that there must be a vertical hierarchy to be followed during communication, and obviously authority is there. Therefore, all of this is nothing but talking about a hierarchy based structure, right? Hence, answer is option C, Henry Fayol. Now, if we have a look at the next question, which of the following is a key feature of the systems theory of management? The systems theory of management, as given by Sir Chester Bernard. Basically, what will be the feature? Closed and self contained? No. Emphasis on unity of command, scalar chain? No, because that was fail. Interaction with external environment, open system? Yes. Why is this my answer? Because systems theory says that you as an organization are part of a system and you will be affected by the external environment. Your operations will be affected. Therefore, you are an open system and interaction is happening. And all the other options are incorrect. Right? Therefore, our answer is option C. Open system is a feature of the systems theory of management. Now, if we have a look at our next question, this is your objective 1 marker question. The question is, in which type of communication can an employee provide feedback, complaints or suggestions to the upper management? So basically, I as an employee am sending up, feedback, complaints or suggestions to my upper management, CEO, managers. This is nothing but upward communication, option B. Why? Because the communication is moving in this sort of a direction, right? So therefore, this is upward communication for you. The other options are incorrect, obviously. It's very simple to understand. Downward is supposed to be the opposite, so it's incorrect. Horizontal is when you're talking at the same level, so not the case. Diagonal is when you're crossing the hierarchy, not the case. And informal communication is when you're talking with your friends, again, not the case. Therefore, answer is option B, upward communication. Now, if we have a look at the next question. Which ethical theory holds universal, fixed, and unchanging morals apply to all individuals irrespective of situation or culture? So basically, this theory says that ethics are fixed, it is unchanging. This will apply to everybody irrespective of their culture, situation, background, everything. This is nothing but ethical absolutism. Answer is option C. Why? Ethical absolutism says what? Your principles are absolute in nature, they are fixed, they are universal, such as don't lie, don't steal. Everybody says this in every culture, wherever you go. These are your basic principles of the foundation on which everything is based. And therefore, they are always fixed. Ethical absolutism. The other options are basically incorrect because they do not say that ethics are fixed. Now, if we have a look at our next question, the next question is, which theory explains that people's attitudes influence their motivation and performance at work? So basically, if we talk about this question, which motivation theory says that people's attitude, the attitude you have as a person, will influence your motivation and performance at work? This is explained by your Porter and Lawler theory. Answer is option B. Why? Because the Porter and Lawler model, what did they do? They link your effort, performance, rewards, and satisfaction. Basically, if you remember the Victor Vroom model, effort, performance, rewards, these three are linked. From the Vroom model itself, we have expanded, and then came the Porter and Lawler model, which was based on this Vroom model. Basically, we are linking here one more extra aspect, which is satisfaction. So, effort, performance, rewards, fine, as well as satisfaction. Why? We are seeing how the attitude of the employee is going to influence their motivation and performance under the Porter and Lawler model. Hence, answer is option B. Maslow won't be the case because Maslow says these 5 needs are there which a person has to fulfill. It won't be reinforcement theory or Herzberg's 2-factor theory. Answer is option B, Porter and Lawler model. Now let's just get into descriptive questions. We are done with the objective. The descriptive question from management generally comes straightforward, very simple, easy from the concept itself. right? So this question is, why do employees resist organizational change, and what is the systematic approach for bringing such change? So we have two parts of the question. First part is, why do we resist organizational change, and how do we bring change using a systematic or a planned approach? So in the introduction, what are we supposed to write? Your introduction. This must consist of what? 10 to 12% of the word limit, should not exceed 60 words in case of a 600 word answer. Now this introduction will consist of, firstly, what is organizational change? So we write organizational change refers to alteration of what? Then we have to also mention that why do employees resist change? So certain keywords, why can they resist change? Psychological factors, fear, etc., etc. And then we have to mention how can we bring this change in a systematic approach? Just the keywords. This is what we write in the intro. Then we move on with the body. In the body, we have to answer two parts. What are the two parts we have to answer in the body? Firstly, why do employees resist change? So we need the factors of resistance. Fear of the unknown is one factor. Then we give an example how it creates resistance: loss of status or power, habit and comfort, economic and job security issues, lack of trust, poor communication. So basically, I am writing these resistance factors plus their examples. Right? Same way, give resistance factors. Then what we have to answer is the second part of the question, which is the systematic approach. Herein I have to give a planned approach. So again, in points, what planned approach do I have to give? Ki how will we bring this change? Identify the need, develop the vision, develop the plan, communicate, ensure employees are ready, they're properly trained. So basically give a systematic or a planned approach. Herein we can also mention the steps properly. If an example for the same can be mentioned, then an example, hence the systematic approach. And finally, just end with a conclusion, which must be optimistic, and we'll synthesize everything which we have written to see what is happening. Resistance to change is natural, it's normal because of certain factors. What we have to do is use a systematic and a planned approach to bring this change. Why? Because change helps us in what? Growth and survival of the organization. So with this, way we are supposed to answer this question. Now, if we have a look at the next question, the next descriptive question is, what is the advantage of non-verbal communication in an organization, and list its usage. So again, two parts. Firstly, what is the advantage of non-verbal communication? And second, list its usage. How am I using it in terms of leadership, work culture, and collaboration? So firstly, we write the intro, obviously. In the intro, I have to mention what is non-verbal communication firstly. Then I have to mention certain examples if possible, and how can these types of non-verbal communication be an advantage, be effective in the organization. And then, its usage in terms of the following scenarios as given in the question. My body must have advantages, beginning with the advantages firstly. So certain advantages we write, and if possible we give their examples, such as enhancing clarity, building trust, facilitating emotional expression, improving of relations, overcoming language barriers. So basically we write the advantages. Then we come to the second part of the body, which is usage in terms of three different components. Firstly leadership, then work culture, then collaboration. So for each three I will have to give some usage. In leadership, how is it useful? Demonstrating confidence, authority, motivating employees, building trust, etc. In terms of work culture, how is it used? Shaping the organizational culture, reinforcing, encouraging engagement, etc. And same way usage in collaboration, how? Improving coordination, teamwork, mutual understanding, virtual collaboration. Done with the same, then we write the conclusion. Basically just synthesize everything we have written and give an optimistic solution that using non-verbal communication is very essential and contributes to organizational efficiency and harmony. And basically that is how we are supposed to be approaching a descriptive answer in terms of management. And that is all about the management component of the FM paper. Basically these were the questions which had come in 2025. Now to discuss the finance component, I would like to hand over to Jaskaran sir, and he'll be the one who will be talking about the finance components and talking about the PYQs and the same. Thank you all.
Now let us move on to the next component, which is finance, and let us see that what were the questions that we were able to target as a part of it. So question number one, as you can see it over here, it was asked in the form of passage. You had to read this lengthy passage, and based on that you had to answer the questions. So if you read question number one passage, it basically says that to address the need for a long-term capital provider with a comprehensive cross-sectoral mandate, unlike the niche-focused mandates for the other DFIs, the Dash was established as an infrastructure-focused development financial institution, and the Dash accorded it the status of All India Financial Institution on 8th of March 2022, making it the fifth AIFI. Now, from here onwards, let us try to read question number one and let us see if that whether we are able to answer it or not. So first of all, it says that which of the following organization is being referred to in the above paragraph. So we know that the fifth All India Financial Institution that has been established by RBI, it is what? It is NAPFID, right? So C is going to be the correct answer to this question. And you can see it was also covered as a part of the EduTap course. I have added the snippet over here. Secondly, the organization mentioned in the above passage. So this organization is NAPFID. It is NAPFID. So it is regulated by which of the following entities? So since NAPFID is a type of all India financial institutions, so yes, it is regulated by whom? It is regulated by RBI, right? It's a very straightforward question, and again, we had covered it as a part of the course. Now, question number three. Again, a passage-based question. So Dash is a screen-based electronic anonymous order matching machine of secondary market trading in government securities owned and operated by the RBI. Membership of the system is currently open to entities such as banks, primary dealers, and insurance companies that maintain subsidiary general ledger accounts with the RBI. These entities are designated as primary members of the system and are permitted by the RBI to participate directly. Now, even if you read the passage till here, right? So, and now if you read the question number three, so question number three says which of the following system is being referred to in the above passage. Now, if you know about NDSOM, you can easily mark this answer correctly, right? Because if you talk about NDSOM, over there the passage clearly mentioned regarding it, it says that it's a screen-based electronic anonymous order matching system for secondary market in government securities. And we know that this is a job of NDSOM, and that is why A is going to be the answer to this question. And as you can see, we had covered it as a part of course 2. Secondly, it asks that which of the following executes transaction in NDSOM. Now over here, if I talk about the trades that are executed in NDSOM, they are cleared and settled through what? They are cleared and settled through CCIL, which is Clearing Corporation of India Limited, and that is why B is going to be the correct answer to this question, right? And over here, CCIL acts as a central counterparty, right? And it guarantees the settlement and reduces the counterparty risk as a part of the trade. So that is why B is going to be the correct answer to this question, and you can see we had covered it as a part of the EduTap course. Now the next thing. The next is read the passage given below and answer the following question. Again, a passage was provided, and this passage is related to InvITs. It says that InvITs are investment vehicles designed to facilitate investment in infrastructure assets through a trust structure. They allow developers to monetize completed and revenue generating infrastructure projects while providing investors with a stable income stream. InvITs raise funds from investors and invest primarily in infrastructure assets such as road, power transmission, pipelines, and telecom infrastructure. They are regulated by SEBI and are regulated to and are required to distribute a substantial portion of their cash to unit holders, and InvITs are publicly listed or privately placed, enhancing liquidity and transparency. Now, based on this, if we try to read question number 5, it says in case of public issue of an InvIT, dash of the units are reserved for QIBs and dash for retail investors. Now, based on that, right, it was there as a part of the news. And if you know about it, basically the correct answer to this question is C option, which is 75%. 75% of the units are reserved for QIBs and 10% of the units are there reserved for retail investors, right? And what about the remaining portion, right? The remaining portion is basically allocated to non-institutional investors, right? And I hope you would be knowing about it. It was there as a part of the news, and the question was asked based on that. Now, question number 6, up to dash of the portion available for allocation to institutional investors can be allocated to anchor investors. So basically, it is 60%, up to 60% if we talk about SEBI regulations, right? So as per SEBI regulation, the InvIT public issues over there the investor manager that is there on the behalf of InvIT, right? What it can do, it can allocate up to 60% of the institutional investor portion to whom? To basically anchor investor. So that is why D is going to be the correct answer to this question. Now question number 7. Now question number 7 is, I would say, calculation based question. It is from the accountancy part, right? Commerce and accountancy syllabus that is there as a part of your phase 2. So the question is giving us information, different parameters. For example, it provides us reserves, it provides us equity, debt to net worth, asset turnover ratio, and gross profit, right? Which is 30% on sales. So we have to calculate gross profit in absolute numbers. So we know that gross profit is 30% on sales. So in order to calculate gross profit, first of all, we have to calculate the sales over here, right? So let us try to calculate it in a short manner. So first of all, what we are going to do, we are going to calculate the net worth, right? We have to calculate the net worth. And what is net worth? Net worth is equity plus reserves. And what is the equity that has been provided over here? It is 4 lakh, right? So it is going to be 4 lakh over here. Plus, what about reserves? It is basically 6 lakhs. So 4 lakh plus 6 lakh is going to be 10 lakh. This is what? This is the net worth. Now the next thing that is provided to us is debt to net worth ratio, right? So what is debt to net worth ratio? Debt to net worth ratio is 0.5, right? So if I write it over here, debt to net worth ratio, right? Now over here, if you try to calculate debt, right? If you try to calculate debt over here, debt is going to be what? Debt is going to be 0.5 into the net worth that is there, which is basically 0.5 into 10 lakh, right? Because debt to net worth ratio is 0.5. So we are multiplying it over here, right? So 0.5 into net worth, which means 0.5 into 10 lakh. If you calculate it, it is going to be around, I would say, 5 lakh, right? It is going to be 5 lakh. Now the next thing is what? We are going to calculate the total assets over here, right? Now what is going to be the total asset? The formula for total asset is net worth plus debt, right? So what is the net worth over here? We have already calculated, it is 10 lakh. And what is the debt? So debt is something that is 5 lakh. We have calculated over here. So it is going to be 5 lakh. So 10 plus 5 is what? It is going to be 15 lakh in this case. Now the next thing that we have to calculate is the sales, right? So how we are going to calculate the sales? Because we know the turnover, so we can use the asset turnover ratio over here, because asset turnover ratio is what? It is equal to sales divided by total assets, right? So over here, what is going to be sales? Sale is going to be asset turnover ratio into total assets. So what is asset turnover ratio? Asset turnover is what? Asset turnover is basically ratio is basically 2 is to 1 in this case. So it is going to be 2. And what is total asset? Total asset we have calculated over here, which is 15 lakh. So 2 into 15 lakh is what? It is going to be 30 lakh, right? So sale is what? Sale is 30 lakh. Now what is given in the question? Question says gross profit is equal to 30% of sales. So we have to calculate, basically, in order to calculate gross profit, we are going to calculate 30% of 30 lakh, which is going to be what? Which is going to be 9 lakh rupees, right? It is going to be 9 lakh rupees. So C is going to be the correct answer to this question. Just give me a second. Please allow me to plug in my charger of the laptop. Just give me a second. Yes. So 9 lakh is going to be what? 9 lakh is going to be the answer to this question. And you can see we had provided you the entire formula. Everything has been presented as a part of uh, this snippet. So shareholder funds, they are often treated as net worth, right? And you can see in the question itself, the shareholder fund were provided, right? Also sort of values were provided to you. And the formula for debt to equity has also been written, right? Which we are going to use in the second question. So based on the above information, what it is the total debt of the company? So if you talk about the total debt of the company, first of all, if I talk about the net worth, right? What is net worth? Equity plus reserves. Now what is equity? If we see it over here, we have already calculated the net worth over here, which was 10 lakh, right? So it is going to be 10 lakh, right? And by the way, we don't have to calculate it. We have already calculated the debt in the above question. If you see it over here, right? What is it? It is debt only. Debt upon net worth is equal to 0.5. So it is already 5 lakh, right? So we have already calculated it. We are not going to calculate it again. So 5 lakh is going to be the answer to this question, which is option C. Then question number 9, that based on the above information, what are the total liabilities of the company, right? So what is the formula for total liabilities? Total liabilities is net worth plus total debt. Now what is net worth? We know, I think it was 10 lakh. Yes, it was 10 lakh. And what is total debt? It is 5 lakh, right? So it is going to be what? Total liabilities is going to be 10 lakh plus 5 lakh, which is going to be what? It is going to be 15 lakh, right? So 15 lakh basically is going to be the answer to this question. This is also equal to the total assets that is in the balance sheet, because total asset was also 15 lakh, right? So that is why C is going to be the answer. And you can see all this information was covered as a part of the course we had provided you, and you can see it in the snippet. Now let us move on to question number 15th, from the finance part. Now over here again they have given you this passage related to banking sector, that Government of India initiated a comprehensive reform process in the financial system during 1992 to 93. Following the recommendation of Committee of the Financial System, as part of the second phase of the reforms, another committee was constituted under the chairman of M. Narasimhan, right? The committee focused on strengthening the banking system through improved regulation, competition, and efficiency. In terms of reference, clearly indicated an emphasis on banking sector reforms, including prudential norms and market-oriented monetary tools. And the committee recommended greater participation of private and foreign banks to enhance competition. Right now, although this is a recreated passage, but in the exam also a similar type of passage was provided. So based on that, if you see the question says which of the following statements are correct with reference to the above passage. So statement number one, we know that first of all we know that the passage is talking about Committee on Banking Sector Reforms, which is also known as Narasimhan Committee, M. Narasimhan Committee, right? So this is what the first statement says. It says that the committee referred to in the passage is the Committee on Banking Sector Reform. This is true, right? Then the committee recommended licensing of new private banks, including domestic and foreign banks. This is true because if you talk about post 1991 reforms, right, LPG reforms that happened, and as a part of it, when the banking sector got opened up, so during that period only this Narasimhan committee was formed, and it gave recommendation that we need to open up our banking sector. By opening up, we mean to say that we need to promote the entry of private participants too with respect to the banking sector, and we need to open it for the foreign entities also, right, so that the foreign banks can also participate as a part of the banking system. So this is what that was recommended, a liberalized recommendation, right, a liberal recommendation, I would say. And this is also true. Lastly, it says the committee recommended continued resilience on CRR as the primary tool for liquidity management. So over there, you can see, if you know about Narasimhan Committee, let me tell you that basically Narasimhan Committee did not promote such direct tools of monetary policy, right? What it did, it basically recommended that we need to shift away from direct instruments, for example, CRR, right, or SLR, and we need to move towards indirect market-based tools for the liquidity management. For example, liquidity management tool that is there. So based on that, this statement is incorrect, but because this connotes the opposite sense, it says that the committee recommended continued resilience on CRR as the primary tool for liquidity management. This is wrong, because this committee recommended what? It basically emphasized upon the liquid adjustment facility, which includes what? Which includes tools like repo rate, right? So this is something that was emphasized, and I hope it is clear to you. And based on that, B is going to be the correct answer to this question. Now, question number 16, Dash was introduced on the recommendation of Narasimhan Committee to manage liquidity through indirect monetary policy instruments. Now, over here, this is something that I have told you just in the previous question only, that Narasimhan Committee recommended this liquidity adjustment facility, right? And based on that, C is going to be the correct answer to this question, right? It is going to be the correct answer to this question. And this liquidity adjustment facility includes what? It includes the repo rate and reverse repo rate, right? This is something that is included. These operations are included, and these operations were recommended by the Narasimhan Committee. So that is why C is going to be the correct answer to this question. Now, question number 17. What is the name of the curve that shows an inverse relationship between inflation and unemployment? Now, this is a very basic question. If you have read the basic aspects related to inflation, you could have attempted it very comfortably. And yes, Phillips curve is going to be the answer to this question. And you can see we had also provided it as a part of the course, and direct snippet you can see over here. Now, the next one is another passage which is related to MSMEs. So it says that MSMEs plays a crucial role in India's economic development by contributing significantly to employment, exports, and industrial output. Despite their importance, MSMEs often face challenge related to delayed payments and limited access to formal credit. And to address these issues, digital platforms have been introduced to improve liquidity and working capital availability. One such mechanism enables MSMEs trade their to discount their trade receivables online in a transparent manner. Now, this line is the main keyword. One such mechanism enables MSMEs to discount their trade receivable online in a transparent manner, right? And these platforms connect MSMEs to sellers, buyers, and financiers to facilitate invoice-based financing. The system reduces dependence on collateral-based lending and improves cash flow for small businesses. It also promotes financial inclusion and strengthens supply chain financing. The platform operates under a regulated framework to ensure safety, transparency, and efficiency. Now, what this platform is, right? This is what this question asks. So the question says that threads a digital platform. So this platform that has been mentioned over here, where such mechanism is provided so that MSMEs they can go for invoice based financing. They can sell their invoices and in return they can avail the finance from the financiers as a part of the threads platform, right? This happens as a part of the threads platform. So if you see the question says threads platform enables MSMEs to discount their invoice is regulated and controlled by which authority, right? Now, if I talk about trust platform, you would be knowing that it is regulated by whom? It is regulated by RBI. Why is it so? Because it is dealing with invoicing, right? Invoicing and also sort of payment mechanism, and that is why it is basically regulated by RBI. You can say it is acting as a alternative source of finance over here, right? And that is why it is going to be regulated and operated by RBI. And you can see we had provided this information also as a part of the course. Then it says which reference to trades consider the following statement. Sorry, with reference to the trades consider the following statements. So trades enables MSMEs to obtain liquidity by facilitating the discounting of trade receivables arising from sales to corporate and government buyers through an electronic platform. Now, this is true. This is the objective behind trades. And the platform addresses the issue of delayed payments to MSMEs by allowing multiple financiers to bid on invoices except by buyers. And this is also true, right? This is also true because if, for example, if a certain type of MSME is there, it has collected a lot of invoices, right? The payment has not been made yet. So what it can do, it can sell these invoices over this Threads platform, right? And it can basically avail the immediate cash that it is looking for, right? And this is what happens over here, where multiple financiers they are going to bid on invoices, they are going to purchase your invoices, and they're going to make you the payments. Now, TREDS entities are recognized as market infrastructure institutions. Now, this is not true. Market infrastructure institutions, they have been recognized by SEBI. But I told you when we talk about TREDS, it's a RBI regulated institution, right? So that is why this information is not correct at all. This is an incorrect information, right? So it is not recognized as market infrastructure institutions. That are regulated by SEBI, but they are regulated by whom? They are regulated by RBI. So that is why this is not true. So 1 and 2, B is going to be the correct answer to this question. And you can see we had covered it as a part of the course. Now the next one, question number 20. Which of the following correctly describe the settlement mechanism under trades? So option A, settlement of funds on trades is carried out through RBI regulated payment and settlement systems. MSME receives only MSMEs receive payment only on the invoice due date, not at the time of discounting. Now, this is something that is not true, right? This is an incorrect information, right? And financiers recover funds directly from MSMEs in case of buyer's default. This is again, which is not correct. Then settlement timelines on trades are determined by mutual agreement between MSMEs and financiers. This is again, that is not true. And trades operates outside the formal financial system to reduce regulatory burden. This is completely untrue because we know it is a part of formal financial system, right? So what is going to be the correct answer to this question? It is going to be option A, right? Because if I talk about trades, basically over here the transactions they are settled through RBI regulated RBI regulated payment system, right? And the framework reduces counterparty risk and it strengthens the trust among MSMEs and the buyers, right? But these sort of things that MSMEs receive payment only on the invoice due date. This is not true at all, right? This is not true at all, because the payment is received at the time of discounting, right? So that is why this option B is going to be incorrect, and I hope it is clear to you. Now we are done with all the questions that were asked as a part of the finance, and I hope it is clear to you. So now it's time for the descriptive paper, and let us see what questions were asked as far as the descriptive paper is concerned, right? So let me give you an overview. So in the 10 marker from finance, 3 questions were asked, which means all the questions were from finance only. And in the 15 marker, 1 question was asked from finance, and rest of the 2 questions were from management, which you have already covered with Deepika ma'am. I hope it is clear, right? So let us see what questions were there. So question number 1, discuss how the capital market is seen as the growth engine of India. Also list the steps taken by SEBI for the capital market. So if you see this question is a combination of static and dynamic, right? Which means your current affair. So why static? Because in the first part you can talk about that how capital market is seen as the growth engine of India. This is nothing but the contribution of capital market to the Indian economy, right? In different ways you can talk about it. It is an important part of the syllabus, right? You keep on covering it for the entire year, so you could have written what is the contribution of capital market in the Indian economy. Secondly, the recent steps taken by the SEBI. Now we know that all throughout the year, what do we study? We study different type of notifications, RBI notification, SEBI notification, right? So whatever current affairs that were there in the news, you could have written 3 to 4 of such initiatives as a part of the second part of the body, right? So let us see that how we can attempt it. So first of all, we can write the introduction, that the Indian capital market has evolved from a close hub to global powerhouse, recently crossing the historic $5 trillion market capitalization milestone. As India marches towards the Viksit Bharat 2047 goal, the capital market acts as a central nervous system of the economy, efficiently allocating the nation's savings into productive investment channels. It is no longer just a barometer of the economic health, but primarily the growth engine fueling India's ambition to become the third largest economy globally. Of course, you can write your own version of introduction. This is just a model answer, but this is what we can write as a part of it. Then body part 1, where you're going to prove that capital market, it acts as a growth engine of India, and here you have to write the contribution of capital market to the Indian economy. So you can write it by connecting it with multiple parameters like mobilization of saving, infrastructure pipeline, entrepreneurship for the MSMEs, what it has done, and lastly, wealth effect and consumption, right? So, for example, if I talk about mobilization of savings, so you can say historically Indian households were locked in unproductive physical assets like gold and real estate, and with the help of capital market, we know we are able to diversify our investments, and there has been structural shift towards financial assets. And you can write some data also that with over 16 crore demat accounts, as domestic savings are now flowing into equity and mutual funds. So how capital market provides us avenues to invest in equity, to invest in bonds, right? Also sort of things. We are able to do that with the help of capital market, and that provides diversification with respect to the investments. Secondly, infrastructure pipeline also through instruments like InvITs and REITs. This can be another dimension. Then for the MSMEs, right, you can write different other points also. We have written over here through the Investors Growth Platform, IGP, and SME exchanges. Small companies, what they can do, they can raise equity capital without the burden of high interest bank loans. Then the wealth consumption and wealth effect and consumption. So as the market capitalization to GDP ratio improves, the wealth effect kicks in, and rising asset prices increase the purchasing power of household, which boosts the consumption demand, right? Which in turn drives the corporate earnings. So everybody is getting benefited. Households are also getting benefited. Demand is getting increased because of that when the households get benefited, and due to this, basically the corporate earnings, they get increased. They are also able to reap the benefit, right? Then secondly, in the second part of the body, we can talk about strategic steps that have been taken by SEBI. So you can talk about so many steps, right? All throughout the year, you read different type of notification released by SEBI. So all those type of current affairs or any news that is related to capital market, you can write it as a part of it if it has been in relation to SEBI. So for example, related to settlement cycles, IPO process reforms that were there in the news, then scores 2.0. Then it has also enhanced disclosure of foreign portfolio investors, then ESG, and BRSR score, right? So because of which basically the accountability gets improved. Then regulation of finfluencers, right? So that basically there is no unregulated financial advice in the market, right? So that is again an initiative. So many initiatives are there. Even if you would have written any 4 points, that would be sufficient, right? That could have been sufficient. Lastly, you can conclude it that the Indian capital market has transformed into robust, transparent, and highly digitalized ecosystem. It serves as the growth engine by turning savers into investors and startups into unicorns. And SEBI's regulatory agility, moving from 10 plus 1 settlement to AI based surveillance, ensures that this engine runs smoothly. As India enters the Amrit Kal, the synergy between deepening capital market and a vigilant regulator will be a decisive factor in achieving economic self-reliance, right? So I would categorize it as an easy question, right? No doubt regarding that, because everything was directly from the syllabus, and even if the second part of the answer it was from the current affairs, that is not something new to you, because you keep on studying those things in the phase 1 also, then in the phase 2 for the objective type paper also. Now the same thing you were supposed to write over here in the form of an answer, right? So that could have been done keeping in mind the level of the paper. Now let us move on to 10 marker questions which you had to write within 400 words. So define various concepts related to union budget. So concepts related to union budget, this is going to a body part 1. Explain how monetary and fiscal policy is used to balance between growth and inflation control, right? So how the growth and this inflation balance is maintained, right, with the help of fiscal policy and monetary policy. So let us talk about it. So firstly, you can begin with the union budget, and over here you can also touch this growth and inflation part, because this is something that is written as a part of your question only, where it is asking about the balance between growth and inflation. So the union budget, constitutionally termed the annual financial statement in article 112, is the government's blueprint for the upcoming fiscal year. It is a critical tool for resource allocation, but economic stability depends on its synchronization with the RBI's monetary policy to manage the delicate trade-off between the growth and inflation, right? So a short introduction could be there that is relevant to your question. Then certain concepts of union budget. Now these things are not very difficult to answer, right? You can easily, it is something that is there as a part of a syllabus, right? In the syllabus very specifically they have mentioned union budget, and before you study the budget you have to understand the basic terms related to budget, and these are the terms that have been asked as a part of the question, and it was highly doable, right? For example, revenue budget, capital budget, where you are going to explain revenue receipt, revenue expenditure, capital receipt, capital expenditure, right? Then there are important deficits like fiscal deficit, revenue deficit, primary deficit, all sort of concepts that are related to budget. You could have explained it very comfortably. Then comes the second part, where it is asking about that how fiscal policy and monetary policy is used to balance growth and inflation control. This is also highly doable question, right? Highly doable, that how through the fiscal policy, how through the monetary policy RBI is able to maintain a balance between growth and inflation by increasing or decreasing the repo rate, right? You can also talk about other direct and indirect tools that are used by the RBI with the help of monetary policy, through which it is able to control the money supply in the economy, and under different circumstances it can maintain a balance between growth and inflation. Secondly, fiscal policy also, where the government uses two tools, which is taxation and the expenditure, right? So government keeps on increasing or decreasing it, right? And based on that, what it is able to do, it is able to control the money supply in the economy, and through the expenditure, what it is able to do, it can promote different type of developmental initiatives which basically promote growth, and through the absorbing capacity that the government has with the help of taxation, right? And it can also be because of decreasing of expenditure, what the government is able to do, government can bring down the inflation too, right? So government can play around inflation and growth with the help of its fiscal policy tools, which is taxation and expenditure. And the same thing you had to write as a part of your answer, not difficult to answer at all. This is again an easy question. Even if it is written moderate over here, I would still categorize it as an easy question, because all the things that have been asked as a part of this question, they were directly from the syllabus. This tells you the relevance of syllabus. Syllabus clearly mentions what is union budget, right? You need to know what is union budget. You need to know about the basics of union budget, right? Syllabus clearly talks about fiscal policy, monetary policy. You just have to talk about it. You just have to write 2 to 3 points on monetary policy. How is it able to maintain the balance between inflation and growth, and the same with fiscal policy too, right? Highly doable, I would say. So this is again an easy question that was asked as a part of it. अब देखो एक और इजी क्वेश्चन आ गया, सी द सिलेबस में से, जस्ट ओपन द सिलेबस एंड सी दैट व्हाट इज द contribution of RBI, right? So over here they have very precisely mentioned you have this topic in your finance which is function of RBI, right? और function of RBI में आप RBI का regulatory role पढ़ते हो, RBI का supervisory role पढ़ते हो, और वही यहाँ पूछ लिया है that explain the role of RBI in the supervision and regulation of financial market. You can write a number of points over here. For example, regulatory role can include the market regulation, money market, forex market, government security market. You can talk about prudential norms also, right? For example, capital adequacy ratio that has to be aligned with Basel III norms, but the mandate is fixed by the RBI that what percentage of capital adequacy ratio has to be kept by the banks, has to be maintained with the banks, right? So also sort of things are something that are done by RBI under its regulatory framework, and similarly in the supervisory role also. ज़्यादा इसमें explain नहीं करना है क्योंकि 10 मार्कर का क्वेश्चन है, 400 वर्ड की वर्ड लिमिट है, right? So you have to write very precisely to the point. So for example, on-site inspection, off-site inspection, and on-site inspection, off-site surveillance or inspection, then enforcement. These are the sort of points that you could have written in some explanatory sentences in order to add value. For example, Camel's framework, बहुत ही basic framework है, ये हम पढ़ते ही हैं, right? We all have covered it as a part of the classes also. Even if you have studied it on your own, you must have read it in the textbook, right? Then CRILC, Credit Repository of Information on large credits, right? Database. So through that, RBI is able to monitor the large exposure of the bank so that basically the risk can be reduced. Then the enforcement also through the prompt corrective action, right? I would say highly doable. Then lastly, you can conclude it that RBI's dual role as a regulator and supervisor creates a robust check and balance system. By harmonizing the regulation of the money, forex, credit market, RBI ensures that the financial system remains resilient, protecting depositors' interest and maintaining the macroeconomic stability essential for India's growth. Right? You could have easily attempted. Now the last question related to AI. अब ये थोड़ा ऐसा क्वेश्चन है जो पूछ रहा है कि रिस्क एंड चैलेंजेस बताओ AI से रिलेटेड, और उसके कुछ न्यू डायमेंशंस हैं एंड एथिकल स्टैंडर्ड्स हैं. नाउ दिस क्वेश्चन वाज आल्सो डूएबल, बट आई वुड से इफ यू हैव नॉट प्रिपेयर्ड इट बिफोर हैंड, it would have been a bit challenging for you to brainstorm points on the spot in the examination hall, right? But we know that out of 3 in the exam you have to attempt 2 questions only, and this was a 10 marker questions, and the other 2 10 marker questions that we have seen, they were easier compared to this one. That is the first one related to capital market and the second one related to the role of RBI. You could have attempted that, but let us see that what is the background of this question. Let me tell you that before the examination, RBI had released a report called Free AI Report. Free AI report was released, and let me tell you that this question was asked in context to that only, because in that report RBI had basically provided these new dimensions of AI, right, and these ethical standards also. All this sort of information was there as a part of it. Apart from that, it was also presented in the important, I would say, the media and speech tab that is there on the RBI website. If you open that media and speech tab, there also you will find a speech that was given by Deputy Governor related to the same theme, right? So through both the ways, this question could have been answered very precisely. If you want to do any kind of guesswork, like if you want to attempt this question forcefully, then you could have written some dimensions, but you could have not attempted this question in a precise manner, क्योंकि जो RBI ने जो dimension दी है, एग्जामिनर वही चाहता था, ठीक है, आपके जो मॉडल आंसर है उसमें. तो अगर आपने वो नहीं पढ़ी है तो इसको आप तुक्केबाजी से आंसर नहीं कर सकते थे कि यार कोई डायमेंशन लिख देता हूँ, खुद से सोच के लिख देते, क्या पता 10 में से आपको 3, 3.5 या 4 नंबर मिल जाते, उससे ज़्यादा नहीं, ठीक है. सो दैट इज वाई आई टोल्ड यू दैट द फर्स्ट एंड द सेकंड क्वेश्चन दे वर मोर डूएबल एज कंपेयर टू दिस वन, एंड यू कुड हैव अटेम्प्टेड दोज क्वेश्चंस. सो लेट अस सी. सो द इंटीग्रेशन ऑफ एआई इनटू फाइनेंशियल सिस्टम हैज shifted from being a value add to critical infrastructure. According to RBI Financial Stability Report, over 70% of the digital lenders now rely on AI/ML algorithms for credit assessments. While this enhances efficiency and financial inclusion, it introduces new dimensions of risk that are distinct from traditional financial risks. As noted by IMF Global in Financial Stability Report, the financial sector faces a double-edged sword where AI can amplify systematic shocks just as effectively as it optimizes market, right? Now over here you can talk about new dimension of risk and challenges. For example, systematic risk, the black box dilemma, cybersecurity and deep fakes, model hallucination and drift. So these sort of points you could have written as a part of the new dimensions. And lastly, the ethical standards that are there, उसके बाद इसमें trust आ जाएगा, fairness, accountability, transparency, safety and resilience, right? So also sort of things you could have written. So as I told you, RBI constituted the Free AI committee, and the committee proposed 7 sutras or 7 principles that are there, and the question was asked based upon that only, right? So you could have written these points if you had covered that report. And this question we can categorize as a moderate, or you can categorize it as difficult also, if you want to keep the preciseness as one of the important factors, right? If you want to write this answer precisely, then it would have been difficult. But if you still want to present a general type of answer, then you can categorize it as a moderate one. But that is the key, and I hope it is clear to you that what was the difficulty level of finance, and I hope the session was effective for you, right? Now, before I end the session, let me also tell you that how EduTap can help you as a part of your preparation. You just have to go to a website which is edutap.in, go to RBI Grade B courses, and over here you can see all the courses that we provide, right? And if you want to join the demo course, then you can join it completely free of cost, right? Almost free of cost, because it is of 1 rupee, and here you will get the access to the entire course. And after that, you can take the decision whether you want to purchase the full version or not. So I hope it is clear to you. Thank you so much, and all the best for your preparation. If you have any questions or doubt, please do not hesitate to write it in the comment box. So all the best.